Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. Welcome to Discussions on Youth. Ramadan Kareem. I hope your fasting is going well. My name is Hassan Hadi, and today's topic will be on a follow up on body image, which we had yesterday. We are joined with Sayyid Fadl Bahr al Ulum. Sayyidina, yesterday we stopped on a point regarding food related things, right? And I hope that our viewers also have questions. If you guys want to call in, do call in is on 0203 515 1234. That's 0203 515 1234. Sayyidina, yes. So, food related things. How does food change our body image, or is food could be a positive thing to our body image, or a negative, or a mix of both, depending on what we have?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As we talked yesterday, it all depends on how we look at ourselves and how we watch our body. Whether we see it from negative or positive, each case has got its own negative and has got its own side effects. Because if we look at ourselves from a too much positive, probably we'll be too proud of ourselves, and
Yeah.
then that will end up
And that could be kibriya, which is something very bad.
pride and thing, which is another thing which is not preferable in Islam and in all other religions. But when we talk about not being happy, this can be either by me finding my body too big, too fat, so I start on a diet and not eating food in order to lose weight, and that can grow accumulatively. No matter how much I lose weight, how many kilos, I need to lose more and more and more until it reaches a stage that someone can't eat, and if he eat, he will vomit or have diarrhea, and he will be very skinny, and this is what we call anorexia.
But what about people who want to lose weight, right, but can't? I mean, as I mentioned yesterday, I always try, but it never works out from whatever reason, right? And it's not something which is bugging me as much as it used to be, as I explained yesterday. No depression anymore, no anxiety anymore, because I did realize it's temporary. But of course, I do want to take care of my body, and I try. And as you said, sometimes people, they stop eating and then they become too skinny. This too skinniness is something that people like me would want to reach. Even if it's too skinny, we want to be not fat.
Good.
So it's a problem that, for example, being too skinny could be something which is attractive to people like me.
Ideally, we should be happy with ourselves. We should be happy with our body image. We should be happy with what we have, whether it's body, it's wrist, it's house, anything. Because being happy with something means you are content and you get qana'a, you get happiness, you get pleasure, you get peace. We need to be in peace with ourselves. Peace is required with ourselves and with the others. First, the one who we live with, then further people away from us, neighbor, next door neighbor, friends, relatives, and so on and so forth in the society you are living. When it gets to skinny, it's very nice for some people to look skinny, as you just mentioned, but we're talking about a disease, like someone who is so skinny, but he also cannot stand up. He hasn't got the strength to stand up, and they faint regularly, and it causes some other diseases, and it's fatal. It's not a joke. They will die because it can have a flip on the blood pressure, or on the heart, or on the pancreas. It's not easy. It's not a joke at all. It can easily be developed into very serious problem, which can be fatal. And so many people we're hearing nowadays, because it became like so regular and frequent. The girls and even most of the ladies, they would like to look at the fashion models, and they start losing weight. And recently, I wonder if the audience, or if you are aware of, in the news there were some kind of complaint or raising awareness about the fact that the way the fashion model looks like imply and encourage the girls to be anorexic. because in the old days they weren't like that. They were like, they want them slim, but not as slim as nowadays. They become too slim, and there was some kind of warning from health organization that by showing these ladies on TV and on shows, that encourage and imply to the ladies that you need, this is your role model, you need to be like them, and then they would like to lose more and more, and then the problem of anorexia began. And bear in mind, anorexia same as bulimia, which is the opposite way. Bulimia, they eat, and they vomit. This is another anxiety disorder. They both are classified and defined as what we call anxiety disorder. And what do we mean by anxiety disorder? These are disorders directly linked to anxiety. You feel anxious, you will perform a specific act. First of all, you feel anxious, it's a thought, and then that probably will encourage you to do a specific act. The act is obsessive, and you do it, and you're overdoing it, and by the time it becomes habitual and you can't leave it, and so on and so forth, until you become so weak and so under pressure and fully controlled by this act and by the obsession itself. Mentioning anxiety disorder, that can be food related, like anorexia and or bulimia, and alcoholism, where people drink excessively until there is no limit and they become useless, and sometimes they're being put by their relatives into hospitals or rehabilitation centers.
Right. You mentioned bulimia. What is bulimia? I mean, I don't know what it is.
I would come to that. Even in the case of anorexia and bulimia, sometimes the parents, the friends, they are forced to take the child or the partner or whoever to these rehabilitation centers. So, as I said, anorexia, bulimia is when people feel anxious, they eat. And they eat in a way, they start vomiting after that.
Right. Okay. If someone
So it's too much eating.
obsessive eating. Right. But of course, taking it back out as well. So yeah. But what about people who have this ideal body image, right? And because they can't reach it, they start eating a lot. They call it eating disorder, right? Where they keep on just eating and eating and eating because they can't reach it. It's a way for them to relieve their anxiety and their stress. How can we control that, for example?
All of those are called anxiety disorder, as I just said. And then let me list them, finish listing them. Another one is alcoholism, and then you got the drug addiction, when people become addictive to drugs. And the last one is OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder. When an obsessive compulsive disorder has got few types as well, which we probably will talk about. What do we need to do, as you just asked? With any of those diseases, when someone feels anxious, he gets into this excessive or kind of act which he can't control, either eating or not eating, or washing, or drinking alcohol, or. And by doing that, he had a temporary relief, and then he feel worse.
Because he did them.
And then he need to do it again, and then he end up doing it, and the cycle repeat itself dramatically, quickly, and he became like can't do anything. He became like a prisoner of war to the disease.
Yeah.
And at some stage, early stages, he see GP. GP refer him to. This is the ideal way, that the GP refer him to psychiatrist. Psychiatrist refer him to psychologist, or he immediately be referred to psychologist, and then usually nowadays they do what they call cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, and with the help and aid of medication, both parallel to each other, and they work, and he can go back to normal.
And that's what people are recommended to do?
Yeah.
Okay. For those who don't have that option because of social issues, for example. I mean, a lot of people in our society, Middle Eastern, they don't accept this thing called rehab because of traditional ideologies, and of course the family pride as well. It's like, oh, this person went to rehab, his parents must be so and
Shame.
so. Shameful. They would feel shameful as well. I mean, for people who face these issues regarding community pressure, for example, what should they do? I mean, they wouldn't go. What should they do?
If they wouldn't go, I think themselves will be the only person who to be blamed. In fact, I mean, I used not to believe that, but in my recent visit to Najaf, I had a meeting with a group of doctors. Well, I suggested to them that we need to do kind of things and open rehabilitation centers because OCD there is very common. OCD, I will talk about it hopefully later on or tomorrow if we have time. It's a disease which most religious people they become like they have
face
symptoms.
OCD.
Yeah, they face OCD without them noticing. And because we have our foundation had an autism school in Baghdad, it's an autism, and also we had some patients with Down syndrome. So in Najaf, I had a meeting with those group of doctors. Most of them they were students in the medicine school, and I was encouraging them, and I was so enthusiastic that they will probably be happy and I will get a good response. And I was asking them who's going to be psychologist and or psychiatrist, and none of them were willing. Why? Because they said it's a community, and the shameful feeling. Because of the shameful feeling, no one would like to send his partner and or his child.
So there's no money in it first of
So
all.
there's no money. They said, Said, we spent 6-7 years of our life studying, and then few years in training, and then we end up opening a clinic. We want to live, and if our clinics are empty, while according to a statistic in I think a survey, I think it was I wish if I could have brought it maybe tomorrow.
It's okay.
I think
We can check it in the break.
Inshallah, yeah. I think it's the Washington Post. A few years ago, they said Iraq has got 33.3% traumatized people.
Wow.
Which is the highest worldwide because of the Saddam and the wars and the bombs and this. So in such a country, and plus they said that the only place people send to is what's called the Shamma'iyah, which is like the Holocaust centers.
I mean, I did know that Iraqi people would be traumatized because of the Saddam and these kind of issues that they faced, but I didn't know the figure would be that high.
It is very high.
Wow.
People with depression, with OCD, with anxiety, with different diseases. Maybe anorexia and bulimia are the least. Maybe drug addiction is less, but the rest of the diseases is so common there. Because there is a pressure. If there is a pressure, it's like when you cook, what they call it, there's a
Which one?
what we call كتر الضغط. When they have
pressure. The pressure. It's a pressure cooker.
Pressure cooker where it releases the steam at some stage in order to reduce pressure. With the body, human being body, if there is a pressure, it should go somewhere. And always the brain try to accommodate and deal with that pressure in order to release and relieve the body from the pressure.
But there's nothing to let off that steam.
أحسنتم. So what the brain does, the brain indicate or instruct part of the body to do something, like wash. So this is in the case of obsessive compulsive disorder. He thinks that he is religious and he wash and wash and wash and wash until he is trapped with washing. And if he doesn't wash, he thinks that he's dirty and he thinks he will go to hell. And then the problem will goes on and on until he becomes so anxious. At some stages they need hospital treatment to help them within their anxiety. And it's a very dangerous disease. And the problem with OCD, because it's directly in our society especially, is directly linked with the religious practices. So the patient usually feel that he is religious and he's doing his obligation and his job and he's doing well and he's habba or so on and so forth. All of a sudden he found himself trapped in a very deep hole, which is called obsessive compulsive disorder.
And that of course goes hand in hand with depression, anxiety, and these kind of problems, which not only in Iraq, but a lot of Muslims face in general. For example, I've read a poll online as well, which says that people in Saudi Arabia have these kind of issues because of the amount of pressure within the religious communities.
Always, as in psychology, they said two things make psychological problem or possibility of having psychological problem being very high, and this is sensitivity and cleverness,
Yeah.
and religious or too much sensitivity and too much kind of legislative issues, whether
Yeah.
it's religious or military or moral
So
or
legislative.
social, and cleverness. So if someone is clever and sensitive, I mean, he had a very good chance to have any of those anxiety disorder which we just listed, any of them. And if they are religious, it's most likely with OCD. Like, I'm not talking only about Muslim, I'm not talking only about Shia, the Catholic, for example.
Yeah.
Because they had so much things to do with the rituals and number of doing things, and the Jewish also. That's why religiously you are not supposed to exceed what you are doing, and it's haram sometimes to do things in an excessive way or in an obsessive way.
For example, I mean, what things can people do excessively?
Like when you have a doubt about salah. كثير الشك لا يعتني بشكه. القاعدة states like whoever is doubts frequently having frequent doubt in salah, he shouldn't care about his doubts, no matter how many times. And the rule is well specified and stated in الرسالة العملية. And also الوسواسي, the obsessive person shouldn't care about his doubts in wudu. Clearly is defined in الرسالة العملية. And sometimes there are books about what is the difference between كثير الشك and الوسواسي, and what is الضابط, what's the control. All of that being considered and studied deeply in religious studies and in fiqh. Not only that, when we write, I mean, if from the istifta'at we used to write to Ayatollah Sistani, even Sayyid al-Khoi before, about someone who is having a doubt about him washing his or did tatyir to his hand. What does he said, لا يعتني بشكه, don't care about your shake. Someone have a doubt about his khums, the answer, لا يعتني بشكه, don't care. And always when it gets to that, the answer is لا يعتني, لا يعتني, and ignore and ignore and ignore.
Okay. That's fine. Thank you very much for this point. We will be coming back after a short break. Please do call in after the break. The number is 0203 515 1234. It's 0203 515 1234, and we'll see you after the break. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome back to Discussions on Youth. My name is Hassan Hadi. I'm joined by Sayyid Fadl Bahr al-Ulum, and before the break we were talking regarding the OCD, and we'll carry on with that inshallah. But if you do have questions, then do please call in. The number is 0203 515 1234. The number is 0203 515 1234. So, Sayyidina, we did talk regarding OCD. But more in depth, OCD. What are the main issues that we nowadays face, for example?
Well, OCD has many kind of types. One of its type is excessive washing, and the other one excessive checking, whether the cooker, the door is locked, and the third one, when they don't like something, is not in order.
Okay.
Like they keep on.
Sorry to interrupt and say, no, we do have already a caller, mashallah, alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum, dear caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad. I'm calling from Watford.
Muhammad from Watford. How are you? How is fasting going?
It's good, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
But I have a question regarding addiction. I have a friend of mine who I really worry about because he is addicted to substances, and I don't want him to, fall ill or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, Islamically, is there a way I can help him, or what is the best way for me to help out my friend?
Yes,
Thank
to
you.
overcome the addiction, of course, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so Islamically,
Addiction to what?
addiction to what? We don't have any.
Okay.
We don't have the details. But addiction, let's say, of course, any addiction excessively is bad.
Hmm.
For example, as you mentioned earlier, just now, excessive washing or excessive checking, these kind of things. So addiction as well in different
Addiction, yeah,
things.
indifferent is addiction
Yes,
probably to a drug or to
it could be to a
something
drug.
like
It could be to
that,
something
which is
different.
so unfortunate that in this country, students in in the colleges and schools and universities, they get into the use of marijuana
Mm.
or these kind of things without them knowing that these are drugs, or some of them they think it is like cigarette and they can use it for social, and this is allowed and this is legal. And bear in mind, this is the first step to addiction.
Mm.
I hope I'm not shocking them, and I hope that what they said is right. Gradually, they will probably be addicted to these kind of weeds or whatever you call it,
Mm.
without them noticing. One of the very good signs of addiction is if you find yourself, your sleeping pattern is changed, that you can't sleep by 11, 12, 1 o'clock, and you can't wake up in the morning.
But sometimes people just can't sleep because of their life being busy. I mean,
No.
their sleeping pattern changes during
Yeah.
studies as well.
Yeah, true. But if someone take these kind of light addictive, like the marijuana or what I was just gonna call, got different names, and he noticed that he can't keep an appointment in the early morning, he can't start work at 9 o'clock. That means this is the beginning of very dangerous sign.
Hmm.
Is that clear?
Yes, as in, of course, the beginning stages. That's the worst
This
stages.
is the first dangerous sign.
Mm.
And that's when he can't be involved in a proper education system or course, and or in a proper employment system or job.
Mhm.
How? He goes on regular basis with a group of very nice friends who he enjoys, and for fun they had shisha and other things, and then some kind of marijuana or other kind of marijuana, because gradually they go, and then they stay late. Time by time they notice that they enjoy it because it's maybe a good thing for them. They enjoy it, they forgot about things, no responsibility. By time they sleep morning, they can't wake up in the morning because they just slept by 6 or 7, and they can't wake up at 7 or 8 to go to work or to go to lesson.
Of course, lack of
And
sleep.
gradually
Mm.
the whole thing will be in chaos.
Yeah, of course.
And
it's
once the whole thing get into chaos, his system, and then when he get the money to buy these things, and then the problem started.
of course.
Once anyone get into these things, please and please and please seek the advice of either your parent, your GP, or your close friends.
I mean, parents, for example, if people nowadays ask their parents, a few issues arise. Parents sometimes start to shout at them straight away. Of course, they should, as they should.
Reaction as to the
Yes,
shock, because
a
it's a big
reaction.
shock. It's a
Yes.
very big shock.
And sometimes, of course, this reaction is very negative. Could be hitting, rather than helping, hitting, kicking them out of the house. Sometimes saying, I know in Arabic we say they're not pleased with them. Maradin anhum. They're not pleased with them
No
until
happy, no
until
pleased.
Yawm Qiyamah.
Yeah.
Which is something very 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 negative.
Very negative
So
on the parent or on the children.
of course on the children.
Mm.
If they, I mean, if the parents are not pleased with them, that's an issue. I mean, what you said, you could ask parents, friends, and doctors,
Yeah.
right? Doctors seems a rather the best solution in a teenage mind or in a young adult's mind, because They won't judge them, first of all, because they're doctors, they're there to help them, right? And but sometimes also teenagers and young adults think, I don't need to go to the doctor because what if someone finds out? Well, that's going to be a stupid excuse. That's what they say. Well, I mean, are there any other ways as well?
That's where the problem is, the shame,
Mm.
shameful thinking. And nowadays, I think there is in the news after Prince William and members of the royal family start talking about these kind of psychological problems they developed after the passing of their mom. And there is kind of now a dialogue or awareness of not being shameful about psychological and psychiatrical problem, which is something very good and very civilized. Being ill is nothing to do with our selves, it's not in our hand, it's bala from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we have a problem, arthritis, this problem is to do with the knee or with the joint or with the bone. Sometimes this problem happens to the brain, and the brain cause these kind of disorders. It's true that part of it is because of us up to certain extent, so we don't need to be shameful at all. All of us gets ill at some stage, and all of us seek help and needs help at some stage. And to seek help is not shame and not ar. And that doesn't mean we are weak. Quran says خلق الإنسان هلوعا إذا مسه الشر جزوعا وإذا مسه الخير منوعا. A being is created هلوع, weak, can't resist anything. So I don't think we will help ourselves, neither ourselves nor our children or our parents, by being shameful. There is no way out of it apart from seeing a doctor.
And sometimes, of course, the right mindset should be that this is for me, and I should develop myself, and I should help myself by going to this doctor.
Exactly.
So it's the mindset, isn't it?
Exactly. Plus, there is a shari'i thing behind it. There is a legal haram thing behind it. If I am ill, and if I know that my solution is in the hand of psychologist, it's my job and my obligation to protect my body and myself, and to treat myself. So it's haram that I don't go to seek the medical advice from the right physicist or doctor or specialist or counselor, whoever, call him whoever you want to call. It's a wajib shar'i, it's an obligation. So
that could be a loophole for teenagers and young adults. Rather than thinking of it as a social shame or something, they could think of it as a wajib shar'i. Something they would have to do. Okay, and what if just delusion kicks in? Delusion as in and denial, saying that, oh no, I won't do that, I don't do that. How can, for example, I have a friend who is in denial and doesn't want to accept that. How can I help him?
Denial is the worst problem when it gets to these problems, because if the patient himself deny that he had a problem, then it's very difficult to help him. One of my friends, he's a psychiatrist, and he used to say that when we see a patient coming to us by himself, half of his problem has been treated, because he is coming, he is willing, he is walking to the clinic. While if someone bring him, it's not as effective as it is, because it's like by force, by putting him under pressure. So denial by itself needs treatment, which is something very difficult.
I mean, of course we know that it needs treatment, this denial, but is there an Islamic way of actually helping that person who's in denial?
Islamically, the only Islamic way is by giving him a good dose of belief and reading the stories of ulama, ashab, see how those people has dealt with ill relative. When someone has got some kind of worry or psychological problem, what did they do to them? And from from then we can start learning of how to do. By saying that with the shame and the denial, both of them are something very dangerous when it gets to these psychological problems, and very serious to be dealt with and to be considered. And I wish and I hope that in our Islamic centers, in our marakiz, in our masajid, if the imam or the influential people or the senior members of the society, jama'at, try to encourage people to go to the doctor, to seek psychological help, to seek psychiatrical help if you need it. You don't need to run away from it, because the further you run away, the big the hole you're going to be trapped in. The earlier, the sooner you go and see someone, the quicker you will be relieved and you will be released from this disease. By mentioning these kind of problems and disorders, I would like to mention that when I was studying psychology, I noticed that most of the treatments they give to the OCD people and to others, they come in terms with religion, with our religion, with Islam. And Islam asking us to do exactly the same thing as religion is asking us.
Right.
And how is that is, for example, for someone who's got a waswas obsession of washing, religiously it's haram that he wash. For someone who repeat his ghusl, it's haram to repeat it, otherwise his amal will be batil. For someone to repeat his salah, it's haram to repeat it. لا شك لكثير الشك. This is a قاعدة. No doubt for the one who has regular, frequent doubts.
Okay, what if someone is a regular in doubting, right? Doubts very excessively. You mentioned that for specific people, those specific people, they don't need to repeat their salah, for example, or their wudu. What if they once were right with their worry? They keep on being worried and repeat it, right? And what if it turns out that that repetition should have been done and they haven't done it because it's لا شك لكثير الشك.
شوف شيخنا, when we have حكم شرعي, that means وظيفة المرأة تتحدد بهذا الحكم الشرعي. The obligation or the job of the mu'min, of the mukallaf, will be identified by the حكم. So if the حكم says لا شك لكثير الشك, it's haram to do something against it.
Okay.
So whether or we shouldn't wash, the قاعدة الشارع أمرني أن أتعبد بهذا. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked me not to do excessive washing and not to do this, then whatever is true is for the sake of the truth. نحن لسنا مأمورين. I will speak in Arabic and translate, but for the دقة I'm so keen to speak in Arabic because we are talking fiqh. نحن لسنا مأمورين بالحكم الواقعي وإنما بالظاهر. نحن نتعبد بالظاهر. يعني we are not required to do whatever is 100% correct and real. We are required to do whatever looks right. إنما نتعبد بالظاهر. This thing, if we concentrate and give it a good thought, that will sort out so many problems. And one of the best books I saw when it gets to waswas and كثرة الشك, obsession and these kind of things is the book called كشف الغطاء عن مبهمات الأمة الغراء by Sheikh Ja'far al-Janaji, the one who is well known as Sheikh كاشف الغطاء, and he is one of the top ulama in the contemporary period. And his book كشف الغطاء, he is known of his book because the book is called كشف الغطاء, and he is known as كاشف الغطاء. The one who كشف الغطاء means lifting the cover, and he is the one who lifts the cover. And lifting the cover not about the jam making or something, but about and مبهمات الأمة الغراء, about the difficult concept. أحسنتم. I noticed that in the first volume of كشف الغطاء, which I highly urge everyone to read it and or to study it for those who are willing to study house. I've been asked by one of my late teachers, rahmatullah alayh, Sheikh Muhammad al-Gharawi, and he asked me, and he insists that we should go and read and study the first volume of كشف الغطاء. When I went to read it, I realized, and I do tarahum on that Sheikh, because Sheikh كشف الغطاء classified fiqh and usul in his muqaddimah in the first volume in a completely different way. And unfortunately, not so many people has followed his steps, and this is probably because not many people has understood his way of thinking, because he was so clever and he has his own theories. In the first volume, he had a semi-chapter about waswas, OCD, and he has a semi-chapter about قاعدة كثرة الشك, and they are very linked together. And I wish and I highly urge our audience to go through it and read it, and one day inshallah I'll bring the book and we read it from the book.
Inshallah. We did receive a message from WhatsApp saying I doubt my wudu. Is that OCD?
Doubt, I assume, so regular.
Yes.
It is OCD.
The message says yes. I always doubt my wudu. Is that OCD?
Yeah, no, it is, and it is definitely OCD. And the answer and the solution is إنه لا يعتني بالشك, is to be careless and to ignore this kind of doubt. When you go to medical treatment, it's exactly the same. They said first they stop the thought, and then they give you techniques for the first they stop the actions, and then they give specific technique to train the thought. So if we wash, stop washing. You will feel agitated, you need to do something until the thought itself goes down.
Right. So it's a causal relation.
Yes.
So the cause is the action.
Yeah.
You stop that action.
Yeah. Once you stop action, no feeding to the doubt.
Yeah. That the mindset changes because you make yourself not think that you need that anymore. That's the same thing with addiction as well.
Exactly.
So
same thing with all these anxiety disorders. That's why they're called anxiety disorders.
Yeah. Then
because they are linked to anxiety and because they're treated in the same way.
Okay, but regarding addiction now, the best way to stop an addiction, commonly known, is to lessen it rather than stop it, like this. So how is that different? What's the difference between them, and why is the solution different here?
Yeah, because with OCD you will ask them to stop suddenly, but they cannot. With addiction, because there is something materialistic, they stop swallowing it. Or والعياذ بالله, in the case of alcoholism, they took away the bottles from them, and they give them small thing gradually until والعياذ بالله. But with OCD, because he washed, because he want to become clean and want to pray, there is no way you stop him. That's why you have to give him these warnings, and you have to try stopping the act first. Okay, you think that you are najis, you are dirty, go and do wudu and salli and pray while you are dirty. And every day you should increase the period of minimizing your agitation. Oh, I'm dirty, I'm not washing. Oh, I'm dirty, I'm not washing. First day half an hour, second day 1 hour, and they do proper monitoring, which helps quite a lot. Because from experience, we've seen so many people. It happened to all of our families and to ourselves, people coming from Hawzat families, all of us. First thing is stop. Maybe first 2-3 days is very, very difficult, very difficult. But after that, this agitation reduces, because it's a thought, act, and agitation. So one come after the other. No act. Sorry, I think I said this is in the but then how to treat it? By stopping the act, because it's easier to stop than the thought, and then the thought will go by itself.
Okay, but couldn't a solution be, if someone else is trying to help a person who's an addict in something, let's say excessive smoking, if I want to help that person, couldn't I say, for example, couldn't I attack the thought rather than the act first? For example, saying, "Oh, this is disgusting. Don't do this. You don't need to do that. It's bad for your health." I'd rather, for example, for me, if I want to help a person, I can't just take the cigarettes and throw them away and say, "Stop that. Don't do that." Of course, it's not that. That's forcefully. If I say, "Oh, you shouldn't do that. You stop that," that's attacking the act. But if I attack the thought, saying, "Oh, this is disgusting. You shouldn't do that. Think about it," wouldn't that help you as well, or is it not as effective?
No, it's not as effective because, for example, with smoking, the worst thing, the more hateful message the smokers are willing to listen is for someone to tell them stop smoking. It should be gradual and should be in a proper manner rather than abrupt and sudden. Sometimes they throw dirt on people with OCD. This shock wake them up and give them the treatment. Sometimes even with cigarette, he go to the doctor. He said either you live or not, and this shock. But usually when we talk, we need جادلهم بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة. It has to be with a nice dialogue
Yes,
and
of
try
course.
to persuade them rather than enforcement or
Yeah.
being harsh or or loud with them.
Of course, yes. Um, do you have a final message to those who have an addiction or excessive actions in certain things? Because we are running short
Yeah,
on time.
there are so many things we have, and I wish if we can carry on tomorrow to finish and to go to the other topic. It's just my advice: avoid OCD, avoid waswas. It's a fatal disease, and inshallah they will give me another show, an episode to talk about it and to talk about other topics. Just if you have it, stop it. In this holy month is the best time to begin good thought and good behavior. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Okay, thank you very much, Sayyidina. Thank you, dear viewers, for joining us today. It was regarding body image, and all these issues, of course, go hand in hand with the whole topic of body image, because excessive actions do create a less of an attractive body image, whether it's smoking, whether it's just constant washing, because people will think that that person is unhygienic themselves. But do join us tomorrow. Tomorrow's topic will be, inshallah, regarding abuse. And we'll finish on this today's topic, and we'll start the topic on abuse. Please do call in. The number is 0203 515 1234. I'll repeat, 0203 515 1234, and we'll see you tomorrow, inshallah. Thank you, and ma'as salama.